Hello, thank you so much for watching Farewell Amor at the 43rd Mill Valley Film Festival. I'm so excited you decided to stream this amazing film and that you're here for this Q&A that's going to follow. And we have with us the writer and director, Ekwa Msangi.
Hello.
And then we have the actors from the film. We have Zainab Jah as Esther.
Hello.
Jayme Lawson as Sylvia.
Hi.
And Ntare Mwine as Walter. Great. So the first question I'd like to ask is, how did the actors find the film? How did you cast the film? The casting process. I thought the film was amazingly acted. I had the pleasure of seeing the film in person at Sundance, and then I also got to rewatch the film in preparation for this, and it still is amazing as I remembered, and I'm so glad that we programmed it here, and I thought the acting was just stunning. So I wanted to know what went into the casting process, and also for the actors, how you found the project.
Yeah, thank you. I was so very lucky to have found the fabulous actors that I did. Ntare is the one actor that I knew as a friend, as a film friend. Ntare is also a wonderful filmmaker. And so we had met each other in the film circuit, in the African film circuit, and had sworn to work together for years before, and we're kind of looking for a project that we could collaborate on. And so when this came up, it was wonderful to be able to invite him to play this role, and he did such a fantastic job. We're really excited to have had him on this project. Zainab is somebody that I knew from the theater circles in New York, but had not had the pleasure of working with. So she actually did come through our casting. We had a casting director who brought Zainab and Jayme in, and they were both, her top picks. And she was just like, you want to work with these women. These are the women that you want to work with. And she was spot on. Both of them are just absolute firecrackers. And so we were just completely blessed with, who was brought in to read our work and was able to interpret it in the way that they did. But they probably have their version of the table and how it came about.
Yeah, I was just graduating from school, and I had met the casting director, Rebecca, and she had asked me if I was familiar with like any stepping growing up, like if I was a part of any step team growing up, or was I good with any dialects. And when you're trying to get work, you say yes to anything. And you're like, yeah, of course. Yeah, why not? And then it turned out like a month later, she had brought me in to audition for this. And I had the pleasure of getting this script beforehand and reading it and falling in love with the character and connecting with her and the story. And yeah, that's how I got introduced to this role.
Oh, for me, I got an email to come and audition, and I thought, yes, sure, it sounds amazing. And I'd heard of Ekwa here and there, and so I thought, oh, this woman, she sounds familiar. Yes, I'll go in. And I've been in for that casting director before, and she always has really interesting stuff. It was like the third thing I auditioned for last year. With that office. It's a good place for me, that office.
Yeah.
Because I booked them everything I auditioned there. So I'm like, okay, I'll go there. I'll just keep the good luck running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just as Ekwa said, we had met because we both had films at different festivals, and I gravitated towards her work and towards her. And anytime I was in proximity, I'd always try to take her out to dinner or, get her some tea or coffee, or say, we got to do something. And then the short film, she did a short film version of this.
Tricks of the trade.
Yeah. Did a short film version of this, which she had asked me to be a part of, but because I was working on something else, couldn't do it. So I feel like it was just a real blessing that it came about that we were able to work together on the film. Because, yeah, I've been stalking her for a while.
Don't do that at home, boys and girls.
My next question was, what made you decide to use different POVs to tell the story? One of the things that the first time, when it was segmented, I knew the triptych style, but then I was surprised that we went back, and I really loved seeing the story from each person's point of view. And frequently in films, you really don't truly get that. So I wanted to know what went into that process of planning that.
Yeah, I think it really just started as being indecisive about who I wanted to make the main character when I was writing it, because, as Ntare mentioned, I had worked on a short prequel to this film, which we shot as a sort of proof of concept and, something to sort of get the ball rolling as we were planning to shoot the feature. And so, and in the prequel, it's Walter's story, and it's the moment before where he is saying goodbye to Linda right before he goes to the airport. And so that was the first story that was in my mind. It was easy for me to access that because I had just worked on that film. But then it also kind of felt a little done, the story of a man who has an affair and, his feelings about it. So that didn't feel terribly unique, even though the situation definitely is unique. So then I was sort of playing with, well, maybe I should make it from the daughter's perspective because she's never really met her father and she's meeting for the first time. So because I was not able to decide whose perspective to do it from, I decided okay, well, why not make it from both? Because they're having the same experience. They're experiencing the same event, but having very different experiences of the same event. And so the initial drafts of the script were just Walter and Sylvia's story, actually, is how I started. And, I kind of got halfway in and it became very, very clear that, Esther was sort of like the linchpin for both of their stories. And so it didn't make sense not to have Esther's story as well. So therefore, Esther's story came third in the process of developing the script.
One of the things that I really enjoyed as part of the story is this concept is dancing as a form of cultural expression. We constantly talk about how dance is a way of feeling your movements, but I really love the concept of, and for each one of the characters, how dancing was kind of centered to them expressing themselves. So I wanted to know about why that was chosen as the central point, but also for the actors, what was it like doing the dancing for the film?
Yeah, I have a dance background and I spent many years dancing to Kizomba and Kuduro, which are the two styles that both Walter and Sylvia's characters dance to. And what's unique about Kizomba and Kuduro, but Kizomba as a partner dance, for example, is that unlike a salsa or bachata or, some of the more popular dances, there isn't a repetitive sort of standard foot pattern to the dance. You have to be very connected and pay attention to your partner in order to know which way they want you to go. And so I just thought that was an interesting metaphor for a relationship, especially in this case, in our story, where it's a relationship where they used to have a dance partnership. And now because they've been separated for so long, they're no longer in sync. They're no longer in step, quite literally. But in order to get back into step, they are going to need to kind of trust each other and actually listen to each other. And at the point where they meet each other at the beginning of the story, that's not where they are. And so they're not able to dance. But, the difference is that Walter's relationship with Linda that's the person that he is in sync with. And so he's able to easily fall into that rhythm with her. And then Kuduro as a dance style is very specific to Angola, but it's also, it comes out of the very sort of harsh environment and urban, it's very energetic, tough style, but it's the dances that come out of Kuduro or are represented in Kuduro music tend to be a reflection of what people are dealing with in society. So there's certain dance styles, for example, there was a dance style called Bella, it's a song called Bella, and it's a fun style and everyone kind of dances to it, but it's really about domestic abuse, and so the kids are kind of like leaning back, but it's about sort of like dodging blows, when the father comes home drunk and he's like beating up the mom and the kid goes to intervene. So, they have a number of different styles like that, which I just thought are so interesting, because when you think of hip hop, people don't tend to think, especially sort of modern day hip hop, they don't tend to think that there's anything sort of deep and meaningful to it. And Sylvia's character has so much that she's trying to say and trying to express. And most African children, especially girls, don't usually have a platform to express in the way that American kids do, for example. And so I thought it would be interesting to have dance be sort of her language that she can speak. And of course, for Esther, being the church person that she is, that's the one place that she can allow herself to be free and to dance and to move, is in praise of Jesus. But I'll let them talk about the journey of embodying the dances for the film.
Yeah, I'd say it was very essential to really get and understand the dance and the dance culture. We had an amazing teacher, Manuel, so patient and so kind. Because like Ekwa said, that for Sylvia, that's her means of expression. Throughout the film, she's doing a lot of watching. There's just a lot of watching and taking in new surroundings and trying to understand where she fits in now, 17 years later. And so Kuduro is the one part where we get to really see Sylvia in her fullness. It's a part of herself that she doesn't show or share necessarily with everyone. And so it becomes a beautiful moment when she gets that permission from her father in that scene, where it's just the two of them, to be yourself, right? To be seen in that way for the first time by this man that she's known of, but she's never had that connection with. And to be understood and seen in that moment was a powerful scene for me in the film. But yeah, Kuduro, and the process of learning it was like intense 2-week rehearsal process. And I think the biggest compliment was when Manuel said that I danced like some of his girls back in Angola. And I was like, yes, oh, thank God. Oh, thank God. Because the last thing you want is to feel like an imposter. Like, you don't want this film to feel like, oh, this is a bunch of imposters, you want it to feel like it's grounded, like it's rooted in something. Yeah.
Speaking of imposters, you never told me I danced like the people back home. Never said you dance like the guys I teach.
Oh, man.
You just needed more weeks, that's all.
Yeah.
But I think it's true that the dance, I really hadn't thought about it just until you said that the moments they really connect, the moment with Walter and his wife at the dinner table, when they start dancing, sort of improv right there, that's like one of the deepest connections that they have. When he's talking to his daughter in the hospital, just talking about how his mom used to dance, and she can't believe it. It's like a window into their world. But it's dance, and as Jayme was talking about, when he's encouraging her to dance with abandon, that's another deep connection. So I feel like it's really, it's a means to connect, and it's the deepest connections happen through dance in the movie. Really, I know it's obvious, but it's just talking about it now, it sort of hits home again. Yeah.
I don't really have anything to add to the dance aspect because I didn't really do that much except for that wonderful intimate moment at the dinner table where, you know, he encourages me to dance and he brings me out of my shyness and, you know.
You had your church scene. You were I saw you dancing in the church.
Yes, I did have my moments of release in the church, yes, but I didn't get to break out the way Sylvia did, though, which would have been fun. That would have been interesting to see Esther do that. What?
Especially because you're a dancer. Yeah,
exactly.
I actually have a professional dance.
Out of all the people who have a professional dance, that was the one person who didn't have to dance.
I actually went to ballet school in London and London Contemporary Dance. I literally have professional dance training. I have more dance training than I have acting training. I have conservatory dance training, and I don't have any acting training. Isn't that interesting?
Writing a dance movie for her.
I was really jealous that they got to dance.
This will be in the part 2.
Yes.
Right.
We'll do all the dancing we want.
That's the solo.
Yes.
Tina Bausch moments happening for like half an hour before
She finds herself.
her former career, the Alvin Ailey Dance Company.
Yeah.
Speaking of Esther's character, one of the things that I really enjoyed about Esther's character is it was very easy to play that character slightly more villainous. Well, not villainous, but like as a character that didn't have nuance. And what I really appreciated about the acting you do with Esther was that like I think you captured the character really well. I think there were like moments of slight humor, and there's also like moments of like clear like understanding of the circumstances and her trying to deal with everything that's going on around her. And I wanted to like speak to like, we'll ask you about what was it like playing that character. I thought that it was just, for me, it felt like a very strong performance of a character that was like in an impossible situation. Who we'd seen from 2 other people's eyes. I also really appreciated that we get Esther's story not really at the airport, but like after that, because we kind of seen that story. And then, so I wanted to like essentially just know a bit more about like in the crafting of Esther and also like in playing Esther, because I felt like the character was very well done. I got to that point in the movie thinking I knew who Esther was, and I felt like your acting kind of changed my perspective on the character. So I just wanted to talk a little bit more about Esther.
Thank you for that. The first thing that made it doable for me is the way she's written. Esther did. I mean, Ekwa has done all the work for me. You know, all I had to do was just say the words, and so she made it so much easier. And another way I could find my way into Esther was I was raised by very religious family members. I was raised by my grandmother in Sierra Leone, and she's deeply, deeply religious in the church. And it's odd because I am not a particularly religious person, but my father is a deeply devout Muslim man, and my grandmother is a deeply devout Christian woman. But I'm not particularly that. I honor their faith, and I honor what the role that religion plays in their lives, but also the fact that they're also non-judgmental people. They're so nuanced. You know, they're not people who felt you were amiss if you didn't embrace the faith to the extent that they have. And I saw the nuance in that. And I never grew up with, you know, so many people have asked me, I could have played her as a villain, but I never saw her that way. And also my influences in my life have never been that, you know, at all. I mean, I'm someone who drinks wine and martinis. My dad has never touched alcohol in his life, and he's never once judged me for it. You know what I mean? These are the people I drew from in terms of how I manifested her, and also the way Esther was written. You know, she was written as a very complex character who had found something to hold on to in the absence of her husband. And it was faith, community, and God for her. And so that was my way in, you know.
That was one of the, another element that drew to the script, and it was very beautiful because often we see characters like Esther's, we see her, again, through the eyes of everybody else. And we never really get a character like her actual point of view and what she's actually dealing with. And like Ekwa said, her being the linchpin, like you earn that at the end of the film. You get to understand how much of a role she plays in both of their lives, and how like she literally is the cornerstone for that family. And so it's like it just always feels earned at the end when we get to see this woman in her fullness, because we get to understand the whole picture. And without Esther, it kind of feels like something's missing. And like you said, I mean, Zainab did an amazing job with her. Yeah. She reminded me of my mama. So it was, that dynamic was easy, you know. And the care, I think, that she had with Esther, I think was very well done and important. Yeah.
Yeah, true. You were going to say something, Ntare?
Zainab is a master storyteller.
Yeah,
just to be able to be on screen with her, on scene with her, and she did so much with this role. It's just, I'm in awe of her. Yeah, I think you had more scenes by yourself, like on screen, than any of us. So you really had, you know, I think the most challenging role out of the three of us. That's why she gave us the dance. To try
Light it up.
That was my challenge, I guess. Yeah. Like to not dance and have a certain stillness, which is the complete opposite to my nature. I'm just like this hummingbird. I'm always buzzing about. So that was my challenge, was to find Esther's stillness. You know, and you know, I channeled my grandmother. I channeled my dad. I channeled aunts. I channeled so many family members who have that, you know.
I also felt very connected to Walter's character. I felt like it was played with like a quietness, but like a controlled likeness, where I felt like I was feeling the emotions, even if they weren't not like all like well physically being shown. I thought that there was. I really love the scene where he's just dancing. He switches his hat inside the taxi cab, and then he goes in to dance. And I thought that scene, just watching it, because it's essentially wordless for a really long time, and it just felt like I was truly connecting with this character and seeing the inner struggle that he's going through in that moment. And I wanted to talk about like some of it, because Walter doesn't have a ton of dialogue. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about like the acting of that character, because I do feel like you did such an amazing job of like showing so much with Walter.
Thank you. Well, I have a confession, since the dance scene was your favorite scene. I have to break it to you, that wasn't me.
Why did you tell her?
I thought it was wonderful.
You weren't going to say anything.
No, I couldn't tell. The editing's amazing.
It was great. The most favorite part, I wasn't even in it.
I love the taxi scene before too. The taxi moment, the switching. I thought it was fantastic. That moment was really strong for me as well.
Oh, that's good.
Well, we have to give props to Manuel Kanza, the choreographer, because he was, you know, I saw Jayme and doing her lessons and was just blown away. And every time I'd get a step, Manuel would go, "Okay, good. Now we're going to try this." And I thought I got it. And he would get something, he would add something else. And then I was like watching him from behind, and I was like, you know, we're actually the same height and about the same build. If you just shave your head. And so I campaigned. We had 2 weeks of dance training, but I basically spent 2 weeks campaigning to get my dance double. Ekwa was like, "No, you can do it." And I was like, "No, every step I learn, he's like adding 3 more. So why don't we just let him do his thing?" So I had to confess. You said I was not going to say anything, since you said it was a scene.
It was such a beautiful, sensual scene too. I love that. The music, the movement, all of it was so yummy. I was like,
but it was him whispering in her ear that you were there for that.
Yes. Well done with the whisper.
I love other scenes with Walter in it too, as well. But that was one of my stronger moments. But I do think he has like these really great moments where he doesn't say much, but like with his eyes, I feel like I'm getting who Walter is, and like the internal struggle he's going through. There's the other scene where he's it's one of the few times we see him at work with someone outside of the family, where he's talking to the person, and you could just see him having essentially a very controlled conversation about like his struggle, like switching out the photo. And I thought that was all done extremely well, and I felt like I was getting a character largely through a lot of your facial movements. So I thought like Walter was very well done. Sorry, I know the dancing scene that was like not intentional. I really love Walter.
I did dance with Zainab, who is a professional dancer though.
Yes. Yeah. There we go.
He helped me. So, you know, they say, you know, when you play tennis, you play with someone who's better than you, your game improves. So you helped me step it up and look passable at that point. But thank you so much. I had so much fun playing this character. It was like, I think it was one of the things I connected to is the idea of sort of long distance relationships and how they exist in your imagination, and or how love often exists in your imagination. You know, the feelings that you have can change over time or circumstance, but a lot of it's in your own head. And so it was great to see this person sort of wrestling with this, how all these things were shifting in his mind. His relationship with this woman, with Linda character, transforming. He's like, why can't we be friends? And she's like,
no.
Basically, I think he's saying, why can't we be friends with benefits? It's like, I think that could be a loose interpretation of that. But she's like, no, it's not going to work. We can't be friends. Your wife is here. And then his relationship with his wife, you know, it's not the same as being on a phone call. They're not even talking face to face like we are. At least I think during those years, they were just talking on phone. So to be physically present with a person who's transformed and changed as you have, and you have secrets that you haven't told them, and they would have probably secrets as well. And then the daughter, who's dealing, you know, who's in high school, just dealing with all of the drama that comes with high school, wanting to give her space, but also wanting to be a father to her. So a lot of that stuff was like internal struggles that he's trying to figure out. And so I'm glad that somehow translated onto screen.
Speaking of Sylvia's character, one of the things, my little sister is also 16 and just came back to the States from going to boarding school in Nigeria. So one of the things that I really enjoyed about watching the film was Sylvia's character, and really feeling like I was getting a little bit of insight to my sister. I really do feel like I was getting a character that was learning how to come from one world and then be put in another. And then like, just like navigating the self that they've created and like how to be that person in like a new space. And I also I thought that Jayme, you did a fantastic job. I didn't know that you were doing an accent. So like, I thought that was really very, and the dance movement, like if you had told me that you've been doing the dances before, largely because I've seen, like, I would have been like, I totally believe it, that you came in knowing the dances. So I thought you did a phenomenal job of capturing that. One of my favorite moments is actually one between you and Esther, where you're kind of like texting, and then Esther's like in the background, and I'm just like, and I thought it was like just a very nice, like humorous moment, because like Esther's like about to poke her head over, and then you're kind of just like, oh no, don't read this.
Yeah.
And I thought like those moments between you and Esther were like really great, especially since we'd only seen you in Walters as kind of like a quiet person. So I wanted to know what it was like essentially playing opposite Esther's character and then playing against Walters as like two different relationships, because you kind of get two different Sylvias.
Yeah. Well, first, thank you. And yeah, well, when we started filming, I was filming mainly with Ntare first. We did a lot of those scenes first. And again, just coming out of school and this being my first film, I was doing a lot of watching and learning anyway. So I would sneak and look at Ntare and how he was handling the camera and how he was handling his scenes. And I think that naturally translated for that relationship, because Sylvia is doing a lot of watching of her father, and the quiet nature in which Ntare played him allowed for me to kind of just be that peeking in, you know, allowed for that just observing him. And again, like, I know what it's like to crave that relationship from, you know, your father, who's been, you know, this man that you've heard of and you've talked to, but you haven't yet had the chance to form that strong connection. And so, yeah, you're right. You get a more quiet, observant Sylvia from that. And then when Esther comes in, when Zainab came in, I started to, you know, film with her. Like she said, she's a hummingbird. So she is full of all of this energy naturally on set. And it allowed for this natural, fun relationship to develop. For you to see, it was important that we see that Esther has been Sylvia's day one. That before they were here, they were like two peas in a pod. They talked, they laughed, they had fun together, even though there were certain things that Sylvia couldn't tell her about her dancing, that she still trusted her mom and loved her mom and would do anything for that woman. And so that was fun to play with, to see what parts of Sylvia gets to show up in this scene. And how does that happen? And then when the three of them are together, then trying to negotiate that becomes a whole other, you know, thing. Yeah, I had fun with that. That's like the work that an actor always wants to do, you know? So yeah.
One of the things that I really enjoyed about the film is that it could have easily blown up and not been put back together in the end. And I love that the film kind of ends on a more hopeful note, which is often not the case with films about family dynamics. So I wanted to know what went into writing the ending of the film and why you chose to end on that particular note.
Well, that's a good question. I don't know that I really considered a blow up that would never come back together. And now I'm like, why didn't I consider that? I mean, I didn't want it for them, but also, you know, I just felt like they've worked so hard to be together that not being together wasn't an option. The thing that the journey that we watch them take is them like really being together for real as real people, as opposed to being together as like the perfect family photo, but they actually aren't really speaking to each other, or, you know, like we get to watch them doing the work to actually connect, and not just physically be in the same space, which, you know, they are. Like the beginning of the movie starts with them, we're physically in the same space, the end, you know, or so it feels. And I think that's sort of what they thought would be the case. We made it. We climbed the mountain, we're together, yay for us. The end, we skip into the sunset and it's not the sunset. And so we actually have to get to the sunset, you know? But then at the same time, to me, it didn't feel like a sunset, you know, like we don't know. To me, there's still some unanswered questions there, you know? Like I feel like if there were a part two and they weren't all living together, you could be like, man, they really tried. Like, you know, I'm not completely shocked and surprised. Maybe I'm disappointed, but I know that they also really tried. But if we did have a part two and they were together, then you'd be like, you know what? I'm really so happy for these people because they were really trying, you know, like I feel like it could kind of go either way at that point. But so the resolution wasn't so much like, yay, happy bow on the family. we're done trying, but it's more like we've made the decision that we're going to work on this, or we've made the decision that we're going to try to fix it, to actually be a family. So, you know, there are no promises yet, but it's, yeah, like you said, hopeful. I mean, I like hopeful. And I think now more than ever, we're in a time where we could all use some hopeful. And when it comes to Black love in particular, I mean, that's something I'm very hopeful for. It's, you know, a situation my family is very hopeful, and there's a lot of love in my personal family. And so that's, and, you know, especially amongst couples, like Black couples, like a man and a woman. I mean, it doesn't have to be a man and a woman, but any couple, like fighting for each other and fighting for love, to me is very important. And it's something that I would always want to highlight in my films, because I feel like that there's more truth to that than there isn't. There's more people who want connection than not. And especially when dealing with Black people, or in this case, African people, specifically African people, I think there's more of us who want to be connected and want to belong to each other than not. So why not?
I think that is an amazing sentiment to end this Q&A on. Thank you all so much for joining us. I want to be mindful of your time. And thank you, viewers, for watching this amazing film. Please tell everyone about it, and to watch it and see it. The film does have distribution, so you'll be able to see it somewhere else, somewhere soon, if your friends can't see it at the Mill Valley Film Festival. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.